Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Teams Fundamentals trainings today. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes. You should be able to see a PowerPoint slide on the video feed and hear a little bit of music coming through. If you can't, please try leaving the event and rejoining to see if that fixes it. All right, it is 1 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I would like to thank everybody for joining us on our Teams Fundamental training. Today we're going to be going over Teams and the fundamental things it can offer you in your working environment. Before I begin, I just want to thank my colleagues for being here with me today. I've got John and Tim who are going to be helping out with the questions. So if you have any questions that you need to ask, please feel free to put them in, and John and Tim will answer those for you. And if it's something I need to address on screen, they'll let me know. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So what is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Office 365. It integrates Office 365 productivity tools in one place and is the next level of communication through chat and calls and collaboration through file sharing, co-authoring, and screen sharing. It allows you to collaborate and communicate seamlessly. It's a single place for your teams to meet around unified objectives with easy access to the applications they use to be productive in their roles. You can even host voice and video meetings to bring the team together in real time. It has all the files that matter together in one place. It's built on SharePoint, and it mitigates common workplace issues like document versioning confusion and permissions issues by hosting and sharing your files in the cloud. It has all your tools in one place. You can use both Microsoft-based and third-party solutions alongside each other in a hub that centralizes your workflows and communications. You can communicate together through chat, meetings, and calls. You can collaborate together with integrated Office 365 apps. You can customize your workplace and achieve more. And you can make calls in Office 365 and Teams. It does have an amazing cross-platform experience as well. You can download the desktop app, which is available on Windows 10 and Mac OS. You can download the mobile app, which is available on iOS and Android, or you can even use the web app right in your web browser, preferably with New Edge and Google Chrome. So just give me one moment while I switch over to our Teams client, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the live demo.
And Shane, while you're doing that, I just would like to announce to everybody, if you do have questions, there is a Q&A feature that will allow you to ask your questions, and we will post some of them if we find that they are good for everybody to take a look at. But everybody is in a mute all function at this time.
Alrighty. Thank you, Tim. I definitely recommend anybody who has a question, go ahead and ask. But this is our Teams environment right here. And as you can see, I am using the web app right now because I'm using my own Teams program to actually broadcast what I'm doing. But the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over some of these menu options on the side, as well as the rest of the user interface for Teams. So up here at the top, you have activity. That's going to be your notification feed for the whole of Microsoft Teams. Underneath that, you have chat. If you're familiar with Skype for Business, this is going to work very similarly. Under that, you have the Teams option, which is going to be really the core of what Teams has to offer. Underneath that, you have your calendar, and the calendar works very similarly to how it does in Outlook. Under that, you have calls, which you can use to call other people from within Teams, or you can use to call using your agency's integrated phone line if you guys have access to that. And under that, we have files, which is where all of your files that are uploaded to Teams and within chats are hosted. Up at the top here, you have your compose new chat message button. Looks like a little pen on a piece of paper. And then next to that, you have the search bar, which is a very comprehensive search and will allow you to search everything within Teams, from messages, people, to files. And then all the way here on the right, you do have your Teams main menu. This is where your digital identity is stored, as well as your availability, your status message, your saved messages, and your Teams settings. So the first thing that I'm going to go over today is going to be chat, because many of you are used to Skype for Business, and the chat function within Teams functions very similarly to how Skype for Business functions. So as you can see over here, all of my chats are organized by most recent. And so you can see the most recent is going to be on the top, and underneath that, we have the ones that go further back. Now, there are some ways to organize these chats, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the first thing I want to do is I want to chat with my buddy John. Now, if you look over here, John is not listed in my list of chats. So I'm going to go up to the top here and click on New Chat, and I'm just going to type in John's name, and there we go. John comes right up. And now you can see, even though John's chat wasn't listed over here on the side, there is still a conversation history with John. That's because conversation history is completely persistent. And even if you hide a chat, it will always keep that conversation history, even if you go back and look it up again. So there, you can see the chat here. It works very similarly to how a like a text message thread or a direct message thread would work. It's just a constant back and forth of conversation. But first, I'm going to go over this message bar down at the bottom and talk about all the different options we have in here. So as you can see, I just sent a normal message right here. But if I wanted to spice it up a little bit, I do have a formatting option right here. And as you can see, I've got many of my normal formatting options like bold, italics, underline, strike through, color options, paragraph options, as well as quotes and links. And I can use that to make my message look a little bit more flashy. In addition to that, I also have an importance option. By default, all your messages are sent as standard, but if you mark them as important, they will actually show up with an exclamation point to the right of them and a red highlight to the left. That's a good way to make sure that it catches people's eye as they're scrolling through the chat or the team. Underneath important, we also have the option to mark messages as urgent. You definitely don't want to take this option lightly, because if you mark a message as urgent, it will notify the recipient of that message every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. And if they don't read it within those 20 minutes, they will then get an email that they missed that message. Then we have the paperclip, which is how you attach files. You can attach files directly from your OneDrive, which will share them to everybody within the chat, or you can upload directly from your computer. Then you have the fun stuff. We've got emojis, we've got GIFs, and we've got stickers, which will allow you to add some exciting pictures and fun things to your chats. And then next to that, we have schedule a meeting. I'm going to go over scheduling meetings a little bit later, but just know that if you are in a one-on-one or a group chat, you will be able to click this button to create a meeting and automatically add everyone in that chat to that meeting as an attendee. Then next to that, we have the stream button. Microsoft Stream is a streaming video hosting service, and you can use this to directly link a video from Microsoft Stream within a chat. And the last button we have here is the praise button. Now, the praise button will allow you to send praise to a teammate for something that they did a good job on. So I'm going to say, good job with that project. And what praise does is it just lets everybody in the chat or team know that the person that you're praising has done a good job and that you appreciate the work they're doing. And now you can see another function within Teams is reactions. So as you can see right here, John reacted to my message. And if I hover over this little thumbs up, it actually shows me that John was the one who reacted. So any message within chat or Teams, you can hover over and it'll give you this list of reactions. And you can use that to, just like before, you can spice up your chat a little bit, or you can use it to let somebody know that you've read a message. So for example, if you post something in a group chat or a one-on-one chat or within a team, you can say, like this message if you've read it. And that way, everybody doesn't need to respond saying that they've read the message. They could just like it, and it'll keep it a lot more compact. And here you can see John was able to send me the weather. That's one of the cool plugins that you can have in Microsoft Teams. But another thing praise does is praise will actually mention a user as well. So as you can see, this praise automatically mentioned John. And if I hover over his name, I can see that it's become a link, and I can use it to send him a message, send him an email, view his organization, or start a video or audio call. Now, this is cool because in addition to letting me click on his name, it also will tag the post for the person who is mentioned. So this right here, this little @ sign to the right and the orange highlight on the left shows me that I have been messaged in this. So although John's name shows up as Teams purple right here, to him, this tag will show up in this orange color like this one does for me. And not only can you tag people with praise, but you can also mention people by just typing @ and then their name. And that will allow you to mention somebody in a chat or a team, and it will highlight the message and show them that they've been mentioned, and it will also send them a notification saying specifically that they have been mentioned somewhere. And that's a really great way to get people's attention. So up here at the top, you're going to see a bunch of tabs. Tabs are available within chats, and they are also available within Teams as well. Now, every chat and every team automatically has this first tab right here called Files, and that's going to be all the files that have been uploaded. So I know that John has recently uploaded a file to this team, but instead of scrolling all the way up to the message where he uploaded it, I can click on Files right here, and it will allow me to see the file that he uploaded. So here we can see the file name, and I could click on that to open it directly within Teams. But first, I just want to show you this menu over here. So if you click on the ellipsis over on the right, it's going to be the same menu you get for right-clicking on the file as well. and it gives us some more options. So edit in Teams is the default, and that's going to be what'll happen if you just happen to click on it as well. It'll allow you to just edit it from within the Teams app itself. Underneath that, you have Open in Browser, which is very similar to opening it in Teams, except it'll be in a different window. And then you have Open in Desktop app. Opening it in the desktop app will actually stream a version of the file to your desktop app, so Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and will allow you to edit it from within your desktop. Now, that does not download the file, it just streams it to your desktop app, which means it doesn't require an internet connection to continue saving the file. Because any of these first three options, if you click any of those, they will allow you to edit the source file and make changes in real time with anybody else who may be working on the file as well. This fourth link right here, download, is not something that I would necessarily recommend using all of the time, because what that will do is it will download a copy of the file to your computer instead of editing the source file. And then we continue with the version confusion that we're used to when we're constantly emailing files back and forth. And then you can also get link if you want to share the file elsewhere. That will create a link to the either OneDrive or SharePoint version of the file. If a file is shared within a chat, it is shared from the OneDrive of the person who posted it. If a file is shared to a team, it is saved in that team's SharePoint folder. I'm going to go ahead and just click on Edit in Teams so you can see what it's like when I open a file from within Teams. So here we have a file that we are editing in Teams. As you can see, it is a Word file, and it's got some nice pictures of a cute pup, and it's going to look very similarly to what it looks like when we're opening up Word. You'll see all these options up on the ribbon at the top. Most of these are going to be the same. There are a few things, a few formatting options, as well as some plugins that are only available in the desktop version of Word. And if that's the case, you can go ahead and click on this Open in Desktop button right here, and that will allow you to, again, open it right in your desktop app, and allow you to look at that and access those extra features. But over here, it also has the editing button, which will allow me to edit the file, or I can click on reviewing, and that will allow me to review the file and suggest changes. And then over here on the right, I have a couple other options as well. I can add comments to the file, but I can also have a conversation about a file. The cool thing about this is if I click on conversation, you can see that it just brings up my chat with John. So if you click on conversation from within a file, it'll bring up the chat wherever that file was posted, and you can just continue that chat while you're working on the file. And then from here, you can also open in browser or download the file again. And you can see down here, it lets me know any changes that were made to the file since I've last accessed it. You can see yesterday at 10:17 a.m., John made a change to the file, and it's just letting me know that. One of the things that you can do if you do open it in your desktop app is also access a version history of the file. What that does is it allows you to look through all the changes that have been made to the file, and if there are any changes that you don't want, you can restore the file to a previous version. Now, yep.
Shane, I was going to ask, we gotten this question from quite a number of people, and that has to do with file retention, in particular when somebody perhaps may leave an agency. What happens to those files when they do leave that agency if they're in Teams?
So, like I said, a file that has been shared in Teams is either shared in the OneDrive for Business if it's posted in a chat, or the SharePoint if it is posted in a team. And because of that, you do have to have proper organization credentials and permissions to be able to access the OneDrive for Business or the SharePoint. So if somebody leaves and they no longer have valid credentials, they will not be able to access or download that file.
Excellent, thank you. And have we covered chatting with multiple people, or were you coming to that?
I was going to get to that next, right after I finished. I just have one more thing to say about co-authoring, and then I'll get to group chats.
Outstanding, thank you.
Yep. So, like I said, we do have co-authoring available within Teams as well. Up to 10 people can work on the same file at a time without losing any kind of performance. More than 10 people can, but with every person you add after that, it can become a little bit less efficient. And there are a couple limitations, which are the same as the limitations for co-authoring within SharePoint. If you're in a Word document, you must be working on different paragraphs. If you're in an Excel spreadsheet, you must be working in different cells. And if you're in a PowerPoint presentation, you must be working on different slides. If anybody else is co-authoring, their little name bubble will show up right here, and you'll be able to see who is co-authoring with you. And their cursor will also show up in the document as well, and you can use the bubble that shows up to jump to their location. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of here and go back to chat. So this is a chat I have with John, but let's say that we're talking about a project and we decide we want to loop in somebody else about that project. And up here in the upper right, we have the Add People button. And if I click on that, it will allow me to start typing a name. I'm going to add Joni, just because I see her name pop up all the time. And I can add her to the chat, and it will create a new group chat with myself, John, and Joni. And now that message will go to everybody in the group chat. But now that I've added Joni, maybe I realized that somebody else was added to the team, or we need to bring somebody else in on the project as well. So because this is a brand new group chat, it doesn't have any history before I added John and Joni. But if I want to add somebody else, I already have a message here. So I already have some chat history. So now you'll see when I click the Add People button right here, I now have some new options regarding including the chat history. So let's say if you were talking about something confidential, or maybe there was just, there are some other messages that you can't have other people see for any reason, you can choose not to include chat history, or you can only include chat history from the past number of days. One of the other things you can do is include all chat history. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Include All Chat History and add Arthur. And you'll see a message right here that says that I added Arthur to the chat, oops, and shared all chat history. So it lets everybody else in the chat know that I have shared all of the chat history. So adding new people to a group chat is super easy. And like I said, if you're working on anything confidential or otherwise, you're able to limit new members' access to group chat history. Another thing that you can do when clicking on this button is notice when I highlight over these people's names, it does allow me to click on remove right here. So let's say I added Arthur, but then Arthur decided he didn't want to work on the project. I can go ahead and click on remove, and yes. Now, I'm sorry, I skipped through that prompt too quickly, but it did say that Arthur will have access to the chat history that he was a part of. So even though I've removed him from the chat and he will not receive new messages from this chat, he will still have access to the chat history that he was there for. So we can go back and reference that at any point, but he will not have access to new messages that are sent. So now that I've created a new group chat, you can see up here at the top it says John and Joni, and over here on the left it says John and Joni. But maybe this is a specific project and I want it to be more descriptive than that. So this little pencil icon just to the right of the names of the people in the chat, I can click on to name the group chat. So I'm going to call it Special Task Force and click Save. And you'll see now it says Special Task Force up here. It says it over here on the left. And in the group chat, it says I changed the group name to Special Task Force. So it'll show everybody that I was able to do that. But again, now that I have created a new group chat, you can see that in addition to that group chat and my chat with John, I have a lot of other chats down here. And maybe some of them are active and some of them are not. And I want to stay in all of them because you can leave a chat, just like you can be removed from a chat. But let's say I want to stay in all of them because I still want to be able to read them from time to time. But I don't necessarily want to have them flooding my box, and I want to be able to access the things that are important to me. So any of these chats, you can actually click on this little ellipsis on the right and pin. And now you can see that my chat with John is up here at the top under pinned, and the rest of my chats are here under recent. So no matter how many of these chats have new messages added to them, they'll pop up to the top of this list, but my chat with John will always remain at the top. So I can take this Earthquake Task Force here, and notice it's fourth down in recent, but I can click on pin, and now it's going to stay up at the top as well. And if this gets too busy, you can just click on where it says recent right here and collapse the entire menu. And that's a good way to organize your chats and put the important ones up at the top. Like I said, you can also right-click or click on the ellipses and leave a chat. You can do that to a group chat. Keep in mind, if you do leave a chat and you do it by accident, you'll need to have somebody who is already in the chat add you back into that chat. The last thing that you can do with chats for organization is you can mute a chat. So if a chat has a lot of people messaging in it, and you don't want to get a notification every time somebody messages, you can mute the chat. And if you do that, you'll see this little mute icon shows up to the left here. And you will still be able to go in and look at the messages that are sent in that chat, but they will not pop up as notifications in your version of Teams. And that's another way to get rid of excess noise and clutter. A few more options you have in here. You can mark as unread if you don't have time to look at a message right now, but you want to be able to come back and see it later and have it catch your eye. And you can also hide a chat. Just like when I brought up my chat with John earlier at the beginning of the session, if I hide a chat, even if it's a group chat, the chat history will still be there. And if people continue to message in it, it will pop back up again in your list. But you can always go back and look at it. And then right here, we do have our contacts button. If you are using Skype for Business, this contacts button will actually bring over your contacts from within Skype for Business. And you'll be able to manage them just like you did in Skype for Business as well. And then just like we do have this schedule a meeting button down here, we also have the option to start a call with everybody in a chat. So we have the video call button and the audio call button right here. And if I click on either of those, it will start a call with everybody who is currently in the chat, whether it's a one-on-one chat or a group chat. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next section, which is going to be Teams. But first, I want to ask if we have any more chat-related questions.
Yes, we actually have a number of questions that I am trying to get to in the queue as quickly as possible. But I think one of which is that when you're changing the name in a chat, are people notified from that?
It does not notify them, as in it doesn't send them a notification to activity. But if you go to the chat itself, it will show up as a message here. So it does not get pushed out to members of the chat, but it will show up as a message that the chat name was changed.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And I'm just scrolling through the questions that we have right now, and I think you're going to get to this, but I've had a number of questions that, let's see, if you're creating a meeting in Outlook and creating it, or creating a meeting in Teams, are those synced in your calendar?
Yes, the Teams calendar and the Outlook calendar will reflect each other. I will get to this more in depth, but I do want you to keep in mind that if you create an appointment or a meeting within Outlook and you do not click the specific Create Teams Meeting button, you will not be able to meet within Teams for that meeting. So there is a special way within Outlook to create a Teams meeting, even though all kinds of meetings and appointments will show on your calendar. Only Teams meetings will be joinable as a call. But I will get to that when I get to the scheduling a meeting part of the presentation, and I'll actually switch over to Outlook at that time to show you how to do that as well.
Excellent, excellent. And then last question before we move on, is it possible to delete a chat? We've had a number of people ask that.
It is not possible to delete a chat. You can hide a chat, which I went over. However, that does not delete the chat. It is still there. Even if you've hidden a chat, you can still search all of the messages and files that are within that chat. And if you create a new chat with the same people, it will retain all of the chat history. So there is no way to delete a chat.
And Shane, I'm going to ask one more question. Apologies, I know I said that was the last one. There have been a couple of questions like, well, when should we use email and when should we use a chat? And I'm going to share my own experience, and then Shane, would love to hear yours as well. I try to encourage people to use chat as much as possible for a number of reasons. One, it's consistent. Two, I can do a lot of things I'm already doing in email, like share files, collaborate on files. But most importantly to me, and for most people I have met, it reduces my reliance on email. Most people I have met do not want more email, they want less. And Shane, if you have anything you can share on that as well, that'd be great. And then we can probably move on.
Yeah, so I'm sorry I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I work in the Microsoft store in Pentagon City, and the majority of emailing that we do is with people outside of our organization. So email is primarily used for keeping in contact with customers, or I say outside the organization, but I should say outside the store, keeping in contact with customers or people from other stores that are not in our store team. So emails we usually use for that, and then Teams, the program we use for in-store communications. Now, occasionally something is so important that we will send an email to the entire store and make a post about it in Teams, but there are very few things that will get emailed out and won't be mentioned in Teams. Usually it is going to be both. So that's just my experience. You don't have to use it exactly the same way, but the nice thing about chats and Teams is it does reduce a lot of those, single line emails being sent back and forth that end up accumulating, like 3, 4, 5 pages of thread. And it also does remove that pesky reply all issue that I'm sure many of you have experienced in the past, where an email was sent out to the entire company and then somebody else replies all saying thanks. But yeah, Teams is a great way for day-to-day communication. Anything else pop up, or should I move on to Teams?
No, let's move on to Teams. We're going to try to answer as many of these questions in the Q&A as we can.
Awesome, thank you. And I just want to say I do appreciate everybody asking questions. That is definitely the purpose of these trainings. I am going to try to move as quickly as I can, just so that we can make sure that your questions are answered. Keep in mind that this session is being recorded, as well as all of our previous sessions, and we'll make sure that you guys get that link as well, so that you can watch at your own pace if you need to. So the next option under chat is going to be Teams. Now, like I said, Teams are really the basis for this entire program. A team itself is a workspace that you're either an owner or a member of. If you start up your Microsoft Teams program and you don't see any teams over here on the left side, that means that you haven't been added to any teams yet. So down here at the bottom of that list, we have the Join or Create a Team button. And if you click on that, it will allow you to join or create a team. And I will go over that in just a couple minutes. in more detail. If you are an owner of a team, then you can go to the settings and control various options. In many agencies, though, keep in mind that to create a team, you may need to get in contact with your system administrator to get permission to create a team. Now, within every team, if you go ahead and click on it, you will see we also have multiple channels. So each team is made up of channels, and then within every channel, there are also going to be tabs up at the top, just like with the chats that we were looking at earlier. You can see this one, tabs are able to be updated, and you can see this channel has many more tabs than the other one did. A channel is dedicated to a specific topic, department, or project. Conversations around that topic, department, and project are held here, and the channel can be customized with its own tabs to bring resources into one place. A channel will also create a folder in SharePoint for the channel's shared files. And then up at the top, tabs are a way to give team members quick access to resources. A tab can link to Office 365 tools and more. So as you can see over here on the left, there are a lot of teams I'm a part of. So I just want to remind you that a lot of the options we had with our chats, we also have with our teams to organize. So if we click on more options, we'll see we can hide, just like we could hide our chats. And we can also leave the team, just like we could leave group chats. And then if you are a owner, you'll be able to manage teams, add channels, add members, edit the team, and manage tags as well. Some of these options you may be able to click on if you are a member, but you will only be able to view information and will not be able to actually access anything. So when you hide a team, it is a little bit different though from when you hide a chat, because down here at the bottom, you can see there's actually a menu for hidden teams. So this team right here, the West Coast Seattle team, I decided to hide it because I'm on the East Coast and it's not really relevant to me, but I didn't want to leave it because maybe they have some good resources in there and I want to be able to access it from time to time. So I've gone ahead and hidden that. But now that I've hidden that, I don't have an East Coast team that I'm a part of. So I'm going to go ahead and click on join or create a team. So when a team is created, there are actually 3 different ways a team can be created. First off, you can build a team from scratch, or you can create from an existing 365 group or team. But to build a team from scratch, we then get the 3 ways a team can be created. A private team means that people will need permission to join the team. As an owner, you can manually invite people to the team. As a member, you can recommend people to be added to the team, but the owner will still need to approve those people joining the team. If it is a public team, then that means anyone in your organization can join the team. It'll show up in searches and anybody who finds it can join it. And then org-wide means that everybody in your organization is automatically added to that team. And so it could be if you've never used Teams before, but an org-wide team was created. The first time you boot up Teams, you may actually already have teams that you're a part of. But here you can see we have the option to create a team. We have the option to join a team with a code, which is a code is something that owners can generate to let anybody with the code be able to join their team without requiring permission from the owner. But this is a public team. So any public teams will be listed after this join a team with a code option. So here we have the East Coast team, but depending on your organization, there may be other teams that show up down here. So it's really easy. All you have to do is hover over it and click on join team. And you can see it says joined. And now if I scroll down here, we can see that the East Coast team has been added to my list of teams. So depending on your organization, you may want to go into join or create a team and look at the public teams and see if there are any in there that you want to join. Now, like I said, there are multiple channels within Teams, and every team that's created is created with a general channel. And a general channel is usually where the chatter will go. And you can see we have several different posts. But my favorite thing about Teams as opposed to chats is you can see right here, John tagged me in a message, and I replied directly to that message. So instead of just being a free-flowing conversation like it is in chat, it is much more structured, and every single post can be replied to keep continuing conversations in the same place. So even though newer messages will drift down to the bottom, any replies made to those messages will always stay contained within that conversation. Just like in chat, you can react over here. You can also click on this button, and there are a few more things you can do. The only one I'll draw your attention to right now is save this message. If there's a message that is important or that you want to refer back to later, you can save that message and be able to view it within your team settings. Just like in chat, you can also mention people within Teams. Again, you can see it will show up as a link that you can view their work information, but you can also message or mention entire channels, which will send a notification to everybody within that channel. And you can even mention entire teams, which will send a notification to that entire team. Now, depending on your agency and your tenant, you may not have access to private channels yet. So for you, mentioning a channel and mentioning a team may be the same thing.
Actually, Shane, if I can just interject
Yep.
that, so private channels now are available in the GCC.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I know we've been working on rolling that out recently, so I wasn't sure if they were available, but that's good to hear. So yeah, that is why mentioning a channel is different than mentioning an entire team, because if you have private channels, then mentioning a private channel will only mention people who are available in that channel. And again, over here, you can see the channel was mentioned, and here the entire team was mentioned. Within every channel, you're going to have a lot of the same options that you had within the chat. However, notice that we don't have the urgency options, the little exclamation points. That could be because maybe I'm not the right kind of member for that team, or maybe it was turned off in the settings. But I don't have, oh, you know what? I think it's in formatting. Yes, so if you click on formatting, you can see over here, we have the exclamation point to mark as important. Keep in mind, there is no way to mark a message as urgent within a team, because then you could be spamming a whole bunch of people with an urgent message when you really only meant to tag one person. But a couple different options we have within our formatting for a team as opposed to a chat. We have the ability to add a subject, which is a nice little way to add a header. But up here at the top, it says new conversation. And if you click on that, you can change it to an announcement. And an announcement will allow you to make a post that has a headline in addition to a subheading if you want to add that as well. And over here on the right, you can change the color of it. So you can make it pink if you want, or you can even click on this right here to add a background image. I'll discard this right now because I want to show you what the announcement looks like. And you can see right here, here's an announcement about making sure that you're checking the news. And you can see it has its own little tag over on the side that says that it is an announcement. And if I look in earthquake exercise, I believe we have, yes, here's an example of an announcement that has had an image added to it. So as you can see, this is a nice flashy way to get people's attention. And as they're scrolling through the team conversations, they'll be able to see that this is an important message. One of the other differences that you have when sending a message between chat and Teams is that instead of the schedule a meeting button, we have the meet now button. And the meet now button will create a meeting, an ad hoc meeting, as we call it, and post it to the channel. and say that the meeting has started, and anybody who has access to that channel will be able to join that meeting. Up here at the top, just like we did in chats, we have tabs that we can access. The Files tab is going to be very similar to the Files tab within chats. It will list all the files that have been uploaded to the team itself. If I were to visit this in SharePoint, in fact, there's a link over here to open this folder in SharePoint. The folder structure would be exactly the same as it is in SharePoint. So keep in mind, if you rearrange the folders in SharePoint, it will rearrange them in Teams and vice versa. We have some other options, unlike in chat. The new option will allow us to create a new Microsoft Office document directly within Teams itself. Upload will allow us to upload a file or a folder from our computer. If you click on sync right here, that is very similar to the same option of syncing a folder from SharePoint. It will allow you to put that folder on your computer and have it be a cloud-based folder, and you will be able to access and edit any of those documents from your computer itself. You can also copy a link to the SharePoint folder, download everything within the folder. It'll download them as a zip file. You can add cloud storage, which you may only be able to use OneDrive for Business right now. I'm not sure third-party cloud storage solutions have been added yet for GCC. And then, like I said before, you can open in SharePoint. Another tab option you have is the Wiki tab. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because honestly, this can be used for whatever you want to. But just keep in mind, this is very similar to a OneNote notebook. You can create sections, you can create pages, and you can put basically anything that you want in here, from how-tos to article resources, or anything that doesn't require a direct link. And then all the rest of these tabs are actually custom tabs. So over here on the right, you can see this plus button, which does allow you to add a tab to that channel. You can link to another SharePoint library. You can add Excel, PowerPoint, Word, OneNote files. You can add a form. You can add Planner. You can add Power BI for data analytics. You can link to a video from Stream, or you can add a website itself. So adding a tab is a great way to keep those resources organized and a click away. So as we can see right here, I'll click on status updates, and I believe that this is a file that will then open up. Oh no, this is a planner. So as you can see, we have Planner. These are the tasks that have been created in Planner and assigned to specific people. And because it has been added as a tab, anybody that needs access to it can click on it and get to it right away. Over here we have earthquake exercise, and I'm pretty sure this one is a file. Yep, it is a PDF. And now you can see it opened up directly within Microsoft Teams and does allow us to go through and read the PDF. And here you can see we have another SharePoint document library has been added as well. And then here we have Bing Search. This is a website that has been added as a tab, and you can see it opens up the website directly within the tab itself. So this is another way to add resources so that everybody has access to them quickly and easily without having to bookmark it or go to that specific website. They can do everything from within Teams. And if you have any problems loading the website for any reason, you can click on this button. It'll just open it up in your browser. So that's the basics of using Teams and channels. But real quick, I just want to go a little bit into the settings involved in Teams and channels. Before I do that, are there any other questions I need to address?
Yeah, a couple of questions just on best practices. Number one is there a kind of a rule of thumb as to when you would use a chat and when you would want to use a team?
So I would say the easiest way is going to be the number of people. It can get a little bit more complicated than that, but usually if you have a smaller group of people, maybe 3, 4, 5, up to maybe 10, then a group chat might be a little bit easier. And then if you have more than that, you want to make a team itself. But my main answer is really just going to be, it affects how information is organized. Like I said before, if you go to a chat, all of the messages are free flowing, nothing, it's always going to be the newest message on the bottom. And you can see it's just a back and forth conversation, and there isn't any organization to it. So if you have a lot of people in a group chat and you're trying to, say, coordinate a project, it could get overwhelming pretty quickly when you are trying to organize some information. So a team, because you have the ability to reply directly to a conversation, that does allow you to organize your conversations a little bit better.
And Shane, if I could just add on a use case scenario, we had a federal client that had their own help desk start with a chat with about 10, 12 people. And as time got on, they added more and more people, and it became more and more of a challenge to differentiate subject matters, whether it was an incident, whether it was a best practice. And they decided to, for lack of a better word, graduate to a team because, as Shane just said, they could organize their information a bit better. They could really benefit from that increased capability. The other question we had, Shane, another best practice question is that on the use of channels, how do you know when you want to add a new channel? If you could perhaps share some insight on that.
Sure. So there are a bunch of different ways within a team itself to organize information and people. So like I said, I work in the store, and basically what we have in the store, all of our different channels, we have the general channel because all teams are created with a general channel. And then every subsequent channel we have is a different focus of the store. So I work at the answer desk where I solve computer issues and help customers who have questions. And so we have an answer desk channel. We also have a business sales channel, a community outreach channel, a gaming channel, an inventory channel, a performance channel where we post metrics, and a readiness channel where we post our e-learnings. So those are all sections of the store that are relevant to everybody within the store. But because they are all different sections than each other, we have a different channel for each one of those. But on top of that, another way that you can organize things is, like I said, all of those sections are relevant to everybody within the store. But you can also manage tags within a team as well. And you can use this to organize people into different roles. So because I'm a services advisor, where I work at the answer desk, we have a services advisor team or tag within the team that allows us to mention everybody within the service advisor role. We have a product advisor tag within the team. We have an assistant manager tag within the team. And all of those allow us to mention all those people. So that's really going to be, it's up to whoever is creating the team, how they want to organize it. But if you have a team based specifically for a specific project, let's say, then maybe you would want to have different channels for different groups of people working on different methods of the project or different parts of the project. If you have, say, a team for an entire building on your campus, then maybe you would want to have a different channel for the different offices within the building, so on and so forth. Do you have anything to add to that, Tim?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think there was one more question on the max amount of channels. I think what I try to encourage folks is that to be a little conservative with your channels. Is this something that I truly need? Because it is very easy to think I need a lot more channels than I actually do. So as a best practice, I try to encourage people to move slowly, move cautiously, and then before you know it, you're going to know when you're going to need a channel and when you can use the existing ones.
And I'm also just going to add, if I could, Shane, if when you get a moment going through the Teams process, if you could just briefly show the process of creating a team, just so that they're familiar with that process.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. All right, so I will actually do that now. I'll go ahead and create a team, and then I'll go and change some of the settings within that team so everybody can see what that process looks like. So I'm going to build a team from scratch. I'm going to make it a private team. And I'm going to call it, let's say, the meeting team, because I'm not very creative. And I'll click on create. And because it is a private team, it'll then ask me to add people to the team. So I can go ahead and start typing names. And that will allow me to flesh out the team itself. And now you can see it's added these people to the team, but I can then change who I want to be a member and who I want to be an owner. Now let's say John is going to be organizing these meetings with me, so I'm going to make him an owner. And everybody else, I just want to be a member for now. I'm going to click on close, and it's going to finish creating the team. And now here we are within our team. And it gives us some options. Like I said, every team is created with a general channel, but there are no other channels in this team. I can add more people to the team. I can create more channels, or I can open the frequently asked questions if you need some ideas about the team. But all of these options can be accessed from within the More Options button over here. So I do have Add Channel, Add Member, Edit Team, but all of those things can actually be changed from within this Manage Team button here. So if I click on that, the first tab is going to be Members, and it's going to show the owners of the team. And then if I expand it, I can also see the members and guests of the team. From within here, I can go over and I can change anybody's role from owner to member or member to owner. Keep in mind, you can change your own role from owner to member if you're an owner. And if you accidentally do that, you will need to message one of the other owners of the team and get them to change you from member back to owner. You can also click up here to add a member. If I click on that, it will allow me to just search for somebody and add them to the team as well. And then I can go ahead and make them an owner. And then the next tab we have is pending requests. Like I said, if you are a member of a team, you will not be able to invite people to a private team. However, you can recommend them to be added to a team. And if you do that, they will show up over here under pending requests for the owner to approve or deny their access to the team. And then next to that, we have channels. So right now, we only have one channel, which is the general channel. But we can go ahead and click Add Channel, and it's going to be the meeting channel. And right over here, you can see this checkbox automatically show this channel in everyone's channel list. If I click on that, the channel will automatically show up, but if I don't, it will be a hidden channel. So I'm going to leave it unchecked and show you what a hidden channel is going to look like. And I also have the option to have a standard channel or a private channel. I'm going to make this one standard for now, and then I'll make a private one after this. So it took me directly to the channel. And, well, it should have been hidden, but I'll go ahead and hide it anyway. So now you can see it says one hidden channel. And if I click on that, it'll show me that the channel is right there, and I'll click on that. But now you can see that it's italicized, and that means that the channel is still hidden. You're just accessing it currently. And if I click away from it, it'll disappear right back into that hidden channel. But let's say that that channel is something I use a lot. I can just click over here where it says show, and it'll show it right there for me. I'm going to go back into manage team and go ahead and add another channel. And I'm going to go ahead and make this one private and click on next. And now you'll see, because I made a private channel, it wants me to add people to that channel. So I'm just going to add John. And as you can see here, even though John is already an owner of the team, because I am creating a private channel, I can actually choose whether or not John is an owner or a member of that channel within the team. So it's another way that you can organize people and allow private channels to be able to be modified or not. And now you can see, because it is a private channel, it does have a little padlock icon next to it, which will show you that it is a private channel. Real quick, I'm just going to go through the rest of the settings here. After channels, we do have the team settings. You can change the team picture right up here. Member permissions will allow members to do all the things that I was just talking about. Creating channels, creating private channels, deleting and restoring channels, adding and removing apps, so on and so forth. For example, give members the option to delete their messages. From questions I've gotten in the past, I think a lot of GCC agencies have this off, and you are not able to delete your messages. You can only edit them. You can also change some guest permissions, change who can mention entire teams or entire channels. You can generate a team code. This is what I was talking about earlier, where if you generate a team code, anybody with the team code can join it directly, and you will not get join requests, so they will not show up here under pending requests. And then you can choose whether people are allowed to use the fun stuff, emojis, memes, GIFs, and stickers. And you can choose who is allowed to manage the tags of the team. And then for your data fiends over here, we have the analytics page, which will allow you to see some information on the users and apps. And then what apps you have available within the team as well. So a couple more things I just want to go over quickly. Over here on the left, we can see our teams over here. So I already talked about hiding teams, but another thing you can do is you can actually pin specific channels. So if I click on that and I click on pin, now that channel is going to show up at the top. And let's say I want to pin this channel as well. Now we can see that these channels are up here on the top, shows us the channel name and then the team name that it's a part of. So if you find yourself on multiple teams, but you're only using certain channels in each team on a day-to-day basis, you can pin those ones to the top and they will be the most readily available to you. Alrighty, one more thing I do just want to show real quick. Where is it? I mentioned whether or not you are able to delete or edit a message. That's going to be accessible under this menu next to the reactions. Like I said earlier, you can save the message, but you can also edit or delete that message. If you do delete the message, it will say this message has been deleted. And if you did that by accident, you can click on the undo button and that will undelete the message. And then if you click on edit, that will allow you to edit it just like a normal message. And you can either save or discard your edits. Yes. And then a couple other options, like in chats, you can mark as unread, you can copy a link, you can share it to Outlook, which will send an email to you, open an immersive reader, and turn on or off notifications. Okay, so do we have any questions about specifically teams and channels before I move on to calendars and meetings?
Yeah, I think we have a question here that kind of provides a nice segue into meetings here. One is if Teams allows external users, external people outside of your organization to participate in a team or a chat. And what I would like to address is that the functionality of Teams is that yes, it allows for that functionality for external personnel outside your organization, but that is dependent on your organization's policy. They do have the ability to turn that external collaboration off. However, most of the organizations that I support allow for meetings, which Shane is about to get into right now. Most organizations allow for you to create meetings where you can pull in external personnel into those meetings. They just wouldn't be able to participate in a team or a chat per security guidelines and so forth.
Yep. Thank you, Tim. So over here under calendar, you're going to see that the Teams calendar is very similar to the Outlook calendar. We do have all of our meetings here, and they're arranged on the calendar and their time slots. And right now, Teams has day, work week, and week views. And I know that they are working on wider views than that, but right now that's what they've got. Up here in the right, we have the Meet Now and New Meeting button. Meet Now will create a meeting for you to just jump into and then invite people to that meeting as you see fit. New Meeting will have you schedule a meeting in the future. And then if you click on this, you can also create a new live event, which is what we're doing right now, which is when a few people will present to a much larger group of people. A meeting has a limit of 250 participants, whereas a live event has a limit of 10,000 attendees. But right now, we're just going to go over scheduling a meeting first. So here's the new meeting. I can go ahead and add a title. And I can add required attendees. So I definitely need John to be there. And I definitely need Joni to be there. And let's say Marvin and system administrator too. So now you'll see I have some suggested times down here at the bottom. And you'll see that I have 2:30 as a suggested time, and then not another suggested time until 5 o'clock. And that is because Scheduling Assistant is built right into Teams as a way to make meeting creation easier. So if we click on Scheduling Assistant up here at the top, we will actually be able to see all of the people who have been invited to the meeting and what their calendars look like. Now, it won't say, see, this is mine, and it says what these meetings are. But if I hover over it for John, it just says busy. It doesn't tell me what the meeting is. It just tells me that he is busy during that time period. So this is a great way to be able to schedule meetings efficiently and so that you're not interfering with anybody else's schedule, but it still maintains privacy for each individual user in that it doesn't say exactly what they're busy with. And then up at the top, you have all attendees, and you can see, even though this morning meeting is only from 10 to 10:30, 10 to 11, you can see right here, Marvin has another meeting from 11 to 11:30. So this all attendees block is from 10 to 11:30 because that is going to be when everyone is busy or when anyone is busy. And this is going to be when only everybody is free. I'm going to go back to details. So I also want to show you, I know we all have a meeting at 4 o'clock. So if I click 4 o'clock here, let's see, maybe it's 3 o'clock. Okay. Yeah, it's usually it will turn red if you add somebody during a time that they don't have available to them. Oh, it's because I made it for AM. My apologies. There we go. And now you can see everybody's name is red because I have chosen a time that everybody is busy, and so it is letting me know, hey, these people probably won't be able to make this meeting. You can also change repetition settings. You can even tag an entire channel. If you do add a channel to a meeting, it will post the meeting to the channel, and everybody who has access to that channel can join the meeting from there. You can also add a location. So if you want to meet in a specific building on your campus or a specific room in your building, or maybe at the Starbucks down the street, you can add that location there. And then you can type new details for the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and close this meeting just because I already have some other meetings created. But you can see right here, I have these meetings. Now, one of the nice things about Teams is even though this meeting doesn't start until 3, maybe I want to join that meeting a little bit early. So I can click on that meeting, and now you'll see we have some extra information here. We have the Join Teams meeting link. We have the phone number and the conference ID. So anybody with this information can call into the meeting and use that conference ID to join. But up here in the upper right, I even have the join meeting setting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now and show you what it's like inside of a Teams meeting. So this is what we call the lobby or the powder room. And I'm not in the meeting yet, but it will allow me to see what my camera would look like and choose whether or not I'm joining with my mic on or off, change up my audio devices, as well as join with audio off. This will help prevent echo and reverb if you're in the same meeting as some other people in the same room. You can join with just your phone audio with the meeting showing on your computer screen, or you can add a room's sound and video system if you're in a meeting room. Let's go ahead and click join now. And now within the meeting, you're going to see some more options down here at the bottom. I do like that if it hears you speaking and your microphone is muted, it will tell you, and you can see that little pop-up there just in case you start talking and you don't realize that you've muted yourself. You can turn on your video, mute and unmute yourself, share your screen. You also have some more options. We can get those device settings again. We can show meeting notes if anybody's taking notes during this meeting. We can show the meeting details. If I click that, you can see there are those meeting details again. And I can copy the join info if I want to send that to somebody. We can also enter full screen, bring up a keypad. Let's say we're dialing somebody into the meeting and we need to type in an extension. We can start recording the meeting. If you start recording the meeting, it will send a banner to everybody saying that it is recording. But it's always good to let everybody know that you're starting the recording before you do it. You can end the meeting, which will automatically hang up the meeting for everybody who's currently on. And you can turn off incoming video. Let's say if you're doing a presentation and people are not turning their video off, you can do that to automatically do that. Right here we have show conversation, and this is actually a group chat with everybody who was invited to the meeting. And because this is a recurring meeting, this group chat will be persistent between all of those meetings. So as you can see over here, if I jump away real quick to chat, right here, this is going to be the same chat. And so any messages I send in here will show up in the meeting that I am a part of. And as you can see, navigating away from a meeting will not end the meeting or not hang you up. It'll show up here in the upper left that you are still in that meeting, and I can just click on it to go right back there. And if I click on show conversation, you can see that message I said is still present. This you can see is a meeting recording that will be uploaded to Microsoft Stream, and anybody will be able to access it from here. And you will also be able to download it if you want a downloaded copy. And then here you can show participants in the meeting. If you are the meeting organizer, you can use this to mute other participants if they did not turn the mic on and you or somebody else is presenting. You can also invite new people from within this menu as well. And that's all for within a meeting. Just give me one moment while I switch over to Outlook and show you how to create a meeting from within Outlook. All right, so here you can see this is my Outlook. This is not our demo tenant. This is my actual Outlook. And you'll be able to see up here at the top, we do have the new Teams meeting. And if I click on that, that will bring up a new window that I will be able to show you. There we go. Just like any other meeting creation window, but this will be creating a Teams meeting. And as you can see down here, we already have the information pre-populated. And this is going to be how you can invite external people to your Teams meetings. So instead of just pulling a list from people within your organization, when you're adding people to this kind of Teams meeting, you can type in external email addresses here as well, and that will send this email invitation to people, anybody you add to that address link right there. And then everything else is going to be pretty similar to creating the Teams meeting. Okay. Do we have any other questions about calendars and meetings before I move on to the end of the presentation?
Not at this time.
All right. So these two tabs right here, calls and files, are going to be pretty quick. Calls will allow you to, like I said, you can call other employees using Teams, or if your phone system is integrated with Teams, you can use that to call from within Teams as well. Pretty straightforward. You've got your speed dial, you've got your contacts, your call history, and your voicemail. If anybody tries to call you within Teams and they don't get you, you can have a voicemail get left here. And then files is going to be a list of all the files you have access to in Microsoft Teams. Here's my recent files, but if I click on Microsoft Teams right here, it will bring up a list of all of the files I have access to in Microsoft Teams itself. And that's a lot of files, so it might take just a moment to pop up with everything. Presenting a live event is usually a bandwidth nightmare, but here we go. So now you can see these are all the files that I have access to in Microsoft Teams. And it's a lot of files. I can organize by name, modified, who modified them, and where they are, but still not great organization. So if I'm looking for a specific file, that's where we come to this search bar up here at the top, because you can search for anything. And I remember a file called Please Check This. So if I search for that, it'll search in messages, it'll search in people, and it'll search in files. I know I'm looking for a file, so I can click on files, and there we go. That's the file I'm looking for. And I can access it right from there. And just like any other kind of file, it will allow me to edit it from within Teams. But let's say I'm looking for John. I can search for John's name, and here's the files that he has edited or uploaded. I can click on people, and there he is right there. Or if I click on messages, it will show me any messages that John posted or has been mentioned in. So this search is very comprehensive. It'll be able to search everything within Teams, from chats to teams and channels, to everything in between. And then up here at the top, activity is going to be the last tab over here I'm going to go into. And this is just going to be your notification feed of Teams itself. Anytime anything happens that that is set in your settings to send you a notification, it'll show up here in the activity feed. So we have reactions, missed calls, mentions, as well as everything else. And you can also filter that down as well to those specific kinds of things too. I always recommend going to your activity whenever you come back to your office or computer from being away from it, and that'll show you the most pertinent things. And then over here, we have our settings menu where we can change a bunch of settings, including what notifies us. First, I just want to talk briefly about availability. This works just like it did in Skype for Business. When you join a meeting, you will be automatically put to busy. When you present in a meeting, you'll be automatically put to do not disturb, where you will not receive notifications. And you can also set yourself manually to be right back. Or if you're away from Teams for 5 minutes, it'll put you to away. Keep in mind, if you manually change your availability to any of these, it will not change back until you manually change it to available. So be careful manually changing yourself to do not disturb, that you don't leave yourself on do not disturb and you stop getting notifications altogether. Set status message is a way that you can, basically, if you're going out of office or if you're presenting something or if you're working on something, you can set a message to automatically send to people when they try to contact you. Saved messages is how you access your saved messages. And settings is going to be a bunch of different settings for Teams. We've got our theme. Right now we're on the default theme, but you can also change it to a dark theme or a high contrast theme. You also have some privacy options. One of them is manage priority access. If you set yourself to do not disturb and anybody is listed under priority access, you'll still get notifications from them trying to reach you. And you can also block contacts or decide whether or not you want read receipts to be on, although depending on your agency, that may be on or off for everybody. And then here you can change what notifications you want to get. The banners are the little notifications that come in from the lower right-hand corner. Depending on what each of these are and how much you use your email, sometimes I would recommend turning email off, just because you may get a lot of notifications from Teams and it might be annoying to get that many emails. And then you can see only show in feed is one of the options that you have as well. And you can change various call settings too. And the last thing I want to go over is going to be my favorite part of Microsoft Teams, which is the help menu down here. And if you go down here, you're going to have a bunch of options, but I'm going to start with the top, which is topics. And this will give you access to a whole lot of articles that you can use to learn more about Microsoft Teams. You can search. So let's say I want to learn how to schedule a meeting. I can search for that. And here we go. First hit is going to be just a simple step-by-step guide on how to schedule a meeting. Here we even have a how-to on to schedule a Teams meeting from Outlook, managing meetings, inviting people, any information you would need to know. And then under training, we also have videos and articles on how to make yourself a Teams master. I highly recommend, if you have some spare time, going through these just to pick up some quick tips and tricks, and it'll go a long way towards making sure you know how to use Teams as best as you can. And then after training, we have what's new. These are going to be the patch notes of Teams. Every time an update comes out, it'll let you know right here what has changed in the update. And that way, if you come back and something is working differently than you remember, you can check it out here. And then about is just some information about the program itself. But even more important than all of that, suggest a feature and give feedback. Suggesting a feature will take you to one of our websites that will have all of the features that have been suggested by other people who use Teams. And if somebody's already suggested a feature that you want in Teams, you can vote on it so it gets more visibility. And there are Microsoft employees who reply to those features that will tell you whether or not they're currently working on it, whether or not it's already been approved and it's going to be rolled out, whether or not it's on the back burner because maybe they're not able to work on it yet, or so on and so forth. And then give feedback will allow you to give feedback on Microsoft Teams if something's not working the way you want it to, or you're having an issue. So I definitely recommend everybody use these two menus if you ever have a problem with Teams, or there's something that you want Teams to be able to do that it can't do right now. So at this point, I guess I'll see, do we have any other questions in the chat that you want me to go over?
Well, we have a lot of questions. I have been typing faster than I think I have ever typed before. I think just a couple of things maybe to reiterate. We do have a number of questions in regards to calendar syncs between Outlook and Teams. And as Shane mentioned earlier, your Outlook and Teams calendars both sync with each other, so there's no need for you to do anything automatically. As opposed to another question we had, Shane, was creating a meeting invite in Teams or creating an invite in Outlook. And I would love you to chime in on this as well. My answer to that is it just depends on your preference. If you're comfortable creating a meeting invite in Outlook, certainly continue to do so. If you want to try something new in Teams, you can do that as well.
Yeah, there are so many ways to schedule a meeting from within Teams. I just find it easier to do it that way. Because, for example, I have a group chat, which is everybody from my store who's currently working on these kinds of trainings. And whenever we need to meet, it's super easy to just hit that, that schedule a meeting button down at the bottom of the group chat. This one right here. And that'll just add everybody from the group chat to the meeting. And so I prefer doing it in Teams just because that kind of stuff is easier. If you still want to use Outlook, that's fine, but I would only ever use Outlook to create a Teams meeting if I need to invite somebody who is not a part of my organization.
And Shane, we've also had questions on multiple calendars, specifically from those who might manage multiple calendars for perhaps a supervisor, someone in leadership. Are you able to provide insight on that?
So from what I am aware of, Teams will only show your individual calendar. If you are working with multiple calendars, that is something you will still need to use Outlook for. Teams will still, via scheduling assistant, allow you to see when other people are busy. But I do not believe that Teams lets you manage multiple calendars at this time.
And I'm just scrolling through the questions here. Like I said, we had over 150 questions asked, so we've been typing as fast as we can to get all of these put together. I tell you what, we've got about 3 minutes left. If anybody would like to post questions at this time in the Q&A, we'll try to get to them as quickly as we can. Okay, I am not seeing any further questions posted right now. Shane, we did have some questions on upcoming trainings. We are going to be doing this session, keep me honest here, Shane. We're going to be doing this session, I think, almost daily until the end of June, just given the current situation with COVID-19 and organizations accelerating their deployment to Teams as a result of that.
Yeah, I have. That is all the information I know. I'm scheduled to do one of these every day. And we have been varying between usually Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We do fundamentals. Wednesdays we do intermediate, which is usually on a specific intermediate subject. And then Fridays we do open forum like Q&A sessions where you can just come in and ask whatever, and if we don't have questions, we'll go over frequently asked questions.
Okay, and those are all the questions that I have at this time.
All right. Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out to this training today. I really love talking about Teams because honestly, it has changed my workflow ever since I started using it like 2 years ago. So again, I want to thank everybody. Check out support.office.com. It's got a lot of really good stuff on Office products as well as Teams itself. And again, I want to thank John and Tim for furiously typing away and helping answer everybody's questions. I do appreciate it. I know sometimes these sessions can get a little hectic. But yeah, thank you everybody very much and have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon.